Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Spellsword build guide in Oblivion Remastered. Now the Spellsword is a classic, being able to pair both blade alongside spellcasting. This class is a lot of fun to play as because magic is just overpowered in Oblivion, and we're going to be making the most out of not only just magic but also the blade itself. So we can use a variety of different weapons. I found that using somewhat of a approach of a one-handed sword here and going with a block, it works well. However, if you equip a shield, it will lower your spell effectiveness, so you can just go ahead here with just the single blade itself and using your dodging to keep alive, because you can kind of kite enemies around pretty easily in this game. I also recommend using conjuration alongside destruction, because this can be good as having a tank to be able to take aggro off of you, so you can go ahead with just taking out enemies yourself. Works very well. So I'll be breaking down all the best Birthsigns, attributes, and skills to select for your own spell blade. The race and identity preferences are whatever your personal preference is. However, the best of them would be either breton here or a dark elf. Reason for the breton is they get increased magicka, but also resistance to magic energy, which gives them a lot of tankiness as a character. A little note though, they do get lower endurance, so that does give you some downsides there. As a spell blade, you want to have a bit of tankiness, so leveling up your endurance would be one of the highest priorities we'll play in a breton. As a dark elf, however, I think this is probably one of the best races in the game because they get resistance to fire magic, which is the most common elemental damage type in this game, because, you know, going through an Oblivion gate, you're going to see a lot of fire. So they work very well, as they also are good with weapons, the sword, the bow, and destruction magic. So this is actually the perfect fit: destruction, sword, and being able to be resistant to fire damage. So these two are the best choices. High Elf makes you more vulnerable to fire, frost, and shock damage, but they're also good spellcasters as well, so this would be a bit squishier but better at spellcasting. Imperials are okay, but you can select them if you really want to. Same, Wood Elf is better as like a ranged attacker with a bow. The Red Guard does give a bit of extra health and survivability, so they could be a good spell blade, but just not as good for magic and casting. Same with the Orc. And the Nord, unfortunately, in this game, there's not a lot of cold damage, so the resistance to cold is not well utilized. Khajiit and the Argonian are good options as well if you want to play as one of these, but these are kind of personal preference choices. I would say the Breton and the Dark Elf being the best two choices here. As far as Birthsigns go, there's a few very good choices. So the Warrior giving an increased endurance and strength is nice. Endurance is extremely useful early on, especially if you're playing as a Breton. Now, the absolute best would probably be the Lord here, making you more resistant to physical and magic damage. Giving 15 armor rating at the early game is very effective. That's going to be helping you tank a lot of extra hits, and an increased magic resistance by 15% is also extremely useful. With these, you can get your stats up to max as you go through the game, so they're great for an early game boost. This one being better if you want to focus on more blade and healing. I think that the Lady is another awesome choice because a plus 10 to your endurance means more health in the early game, and more willpower means you're able to regenerate your magic quicker. So those two are great choices. The atronach here, however, is also a really good choice. So you can't regenerate your magic, so you will be reliant on potions. However, you have a 50% chance of absorbing spells that are cast at you. If you go with the Breton and the atronach here, you can actually be very tanky early game, getting a huge resistance to your magic damage. Unfortunately not being able to regenerate yourself, so you will be swinging potions back quite frequently. So these three are probably the top three choices: Lady, Lord, and atronach. However, the Thief is another kind of wild card choice here because you can get your increased agility, which is good for if you wanted to throw in bow attacks too, and Fortify Luck. Now, where Fortify Luck becomes really useful is to increase your luck in this game. It does take 4 of your 12 level up points for a single level of luck, whereas every other stat just uses 1. So getting an extra 10 Fortify Luck, that's like a lot of extra points you won't have to spend later on. So that is nice. The Shadow, not that great. The Apprentice will increase your basically you take 100%, like way more magic damage. Not worth taking, I don't think. Atronach, the Mage, can give you increased magicka by 50 points, which is also kind of nice. The Steed, not worthwhile for the increased movement speed. The Ritual, the Tower, the Lover, and the Serpent all have abilities that you can use once per day. They're not great. So Lord, Lady, or atronach. Wild card, you could go Warrior, Mage, or Thief as well, but these would be the top 3. So the Spellsword custom class is not bad, but we're going to make our own version of this because we can do it a lot better this way. So with the custom class, our main focus will be magic, and this is going to give us a +5 bonus and increase it more rapidly. So that's what we're going to first focus on. And for our attributes, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Willpower and endurance are likely going to be the best two. Endurance gives you more maximum health and regenerate health quicker outside of combat. This just makes you more survivable, and you want to get the stat up to 100 as quick as possible just to be able to help survive. Willpower allows you to regenerate magicka quicker and greatly increase your maximum fatigue. So this is also good too, because we're going to be attacking, and that uses fatigue, and magicka, we want to regenerate that quickly. Now, intelligence is also a good choice. You could go intelligence and endurance, intelligence and willpower. So one of those combinations here, like these two, or taking endurance is nice. Even luck again, because that's a lot of points you do have to invest into getting your luck up. Strength is good too, because it increases the amount of damage you're going to deal with longswords, claymores, maces, war axes, and battle axes. If you want to focus more on short swords, you could go with the agility, but for this, we're going to be focusing on mainly big weapons, so that strength is going to be really important as well, and it'll slightly increase the max amount of health too, and carry capacity, which is super important. So I still think that endurance and willpower or intelligence are going to be the best, but strength is good as well. Now I'm just going to go with willpower and endurance. I think those are the two best. And now for our skills. This is where it gets interesting. We're going to be wanting to pick, out of the combat one, we're going to want to pick Blade, as I find that swords typically have the best enhancements. Although if you do want to go with the blunt, you could go that way. Or if you really want to, I mean, it's a spell sword. It has sword in the name. If you really want to use those, you could, but sword and block work really good. But we do want to have one armor proficiency, and I feel like heavy armor is the way to go for this. You do move slower, so that's something to keep in mind. If you don't like that decrease, then we can go with light armor here. So that is another choice that you do got as well. So blade, heavy armor. Armor is nice too, to increase your efficiency of repairing your weapons as they break. Now for our magic schools, the three non-negotiables: conjuration. Having a summon is extremely useful in this game because they can take heat off of you, allowing you to get easy attacks in. Destruction, it's pretty straightforward. Be able to do elemental damage attacks, as you saw there, throwing fireballs. And restoration, this allows you to heal yourself, absorb attributes, cure disease. Basically, summon your creature up, shoot fire magic at them till they're hurt, and if you're hurt, use restoration. Now we could also add in alchemy is really nice too, being able to create potions that can empower your weapon, or poisons that can empower your weapon, and potions that empower yourself. Alteration can be pretty fun at times too. Walking on water is fun because if the enemies are chasing you, you're on top of water walking around, they can't touch you. Illusion is also nice. Charming enemies can be really effective at taking someone out of the fight. Mysticism is also nice too, being able to dispel, absorb magic and all that. So I would recommend, since we're not going to go with an armored proficiency there, we're going to go with our illusion spell. And sneak is always useful for everyone. Move unseen and be unheard. I would recommend having it, but if you didn't want to, you could take that off and go with another school of magic like alchemy, as alchemy is pretty effective. So with something like this, going with not only blade, heavy armor, alchemy, conjuration, destruction, illusion, and restoration, we got lots of schools of magic, and we also got the ability to, be a spell blade with heavy armor. So those would be the best choices for skills, I believe, on this class here: alchemy, blade, conjuration, destruction, heavy armor, illusion, and restoration. Now, putting this all together, the reason that we like to use alchemy is you can pop strength potions here to give yourself increased amounts of damage. If you play Baldur's Gate 3, you're going to know that. Unfortunately, they're attacking my horse, so gotta take out these Minotaur here. Now, having a weapon with a enhancement on it is going to be nice because that's just going to give you increased amounts of damage. I also like to have a summon of some sort. I'm using the flame atronach there because I found that one just worked the best. And then going ahead with a weapon attack that can block as well is going to be nice too. So we do have to be mindful because our summons will get taken out pretty quickly. So using kiting attacks like this, like getting in, getting out, weaving around, is going to be pretty nice. So we got a lot of enemies here to focus on. Bringing in our summon to help spread out aggro is really nice. Go for the weakest enemy first because the less that you have to fight is going to be better. Now, we're going against a lot of enemies here. That's why having a ranged one like the flame atronach there is really nice because that just gives us a bit of more survivability. Kiting is going to be your best friend as a spell sword because you're going to be in a position where you're getting attacked like this. So you want to move them around. We got a summon here that can help us attack them until they go down, and that's going to be pretty useful. And then if you need to, you can go into your inventory here, go ahead and take potions, because that's why alchemy is so nice. Unfortunately, there's a lot of items to scroll through here, so With that, our weak potions of sorcery or just any potion of sorcery that you have is going to be really nice. And then also on top of all, having a stronger summon like a frost atronach, also nice. Although some of them are better at ranged attacking, some of them are better at close range attacking. You got to know which one you're using there. We were able to take out one of these enemies so far. So the nice thing with atronach is they do have close range and far away attacks. So really nice, especially if you're getting jumped like this. And don't forget your restoration magic to help keep yourself alive. What's cool is you can kind of kite it around. It's just going to chase you, and then you got that doing its range attacks there, which are pretty strong if they're able to hit with them. Just be mindful that you are quite squishy if you don't have a good enough armor. I'm playing on a higher difficulty, so things are a little bit more rough. The summon ghosts are also quite nice because they typically have a hard time hitting them, and they're going to do cold damage, which is nice to have alongside you. So you can see there, they're able to attack and do it from a range. And the thing is, for some reason, enemies attacking on the AI does not do very well with the ghost. But the game is a lot about getting in and then getting back out of attack range. So you can see there, our block skill is not fantastic. However, the thing is, we're going to be focusing on bobbing and weaving in and out of combat, casting our restoration to bring us back to health, and then whenever we get into a prime position, we can go ahead with popping a potion and then dropping another summon, just like this here. Flame atronach is gonna be one of the best bang for your buck in terms of the amount of damage that they can do to the amount of magicka that they cost. But that is a spell sword build in Oblivion Remastered. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next video.